sir.
How you doing?
I woke up this morning, so let's put it in its proper perspective, right?
Sure.
Oh, I smoke. Yeah, and that's going to be the answer for, I believe, for a lot of people for a while, you know, because folks are still learning the different platforms and stuff like that. My favorite stoner movie. Gotta keep it all the way a buck. Friday. Yep. Friday. Yep. That's probably gonna be so wait a minute. Am I the first person to give the answer? So everybody that says Friday will be copying off of me. Friday. Leo said Friday first. Papers. I've evolved. Papers. I need to taste what I'm consuming. I need to know. I need the correct terpene profile. I need to be able to, you know how you have that smell that comes with cannabis? If you can taste it, then you know. Yeah. So yeah, I don't want tobacco. Yeah, and then you have people who get the flavored Dutches and all that stuff. That was me back in the day and everything. But then I took a trip to Amsterdam, and I ain't been right since.
Yeah. So the weed won't kill you, but the flavors and Dutch will.
Yes, there you go. Indica, I'm an indica man. Yeah, I'm an indica. Nightcap. You know what I'm saying? But if I want to remain functional and try to get things done and everything like that, you know, then it's a sativa. Bridge H2O. I had a hand in that one. You know, that was Bridge H2O was a cultivar that was created in my honor, and I actually had an opportunity to have a say so in, you know, putting the different plants together. And so, and it was an experience I never want to go through again. That's for certain. Only because through that experience, I found out, you know, I had triggers I didn't know about, because it was a lot of psycho talking, you know, talking with the grower. How do you feel about this? How did this make you feel? And in doing so, I had to go through things and talk about things. I know I left Adam like, you know, with some of the stuff that I was saying. But it took a while, and then Bridge H2O was the result. And the first time I consumed Bridge H2O, 10 hours of sleep with no dreams. Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember I woke up the next day because I had to go somewhere, and I was running late. You know how you know, and I jumped up, came downstairs, walked right past my wife. I said, "Hey, I'll be right back. I got to do da." And she said, "Okay." And then I said, and I ran downstairs and I was putting my shoes on. And she said, "So how was it?" And I was like, "How was what?" And she said, "Your weed." And I said, that's when it hit. Yeah, yup. And I was energized. Bridge H2O, yup. I was 20. Yeah. In comparison to a lot of my colleagues and friends, I started late. Yeah, I was in college. Yeah, July of 1995. And I was in Lawrence, New Jersey with my cousin and my friend. And I was home for school. I was home from college. I was going into my junior year. And so like that summer after your sophomore year, right before your junior year, I just happened to be home in Jersey because I went to St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I was home and I was hanging out with my cousin and, you know, and our friend. And, you know, we were on some nostalgia thing. Remember we used to go hang here? And they whipped it out and I was like, all right, let's try it, you know, and yup. You know what? Considering all that I've experienced in this world, when I'm consuming, I don't like to do anything other than just relax. You know, if I can sit outside in the outdoor living space we have at my home and, you know, have my iPad or watching television, I've learned to be okay with, I'm comfortable with my own company. Right. Yup. That's exactly what it is too. I'm alone, but I ain't alone. I'm okay. Yup. I like doing nothing. A lot. Yes. The most exciting thing about the evolution of cannabis is that, number one, none of the things and none of our efforts are duplicable. And what I mean by that is that there will never be another end of prohibition on cannabis ever again. We're the only ones that get to experience it. And what's required of us at this time is to think 4 and 5 generations beyond ourselves. And we need to think about things that make sense then. And if they don't, then we need to be thinking about mechanisms to put in place now so that they can make it make sense then. And, you know, I said this earlier, you know, our work, none of us here are going to see the penthouse of our work. You know, it is going to outlive us. Someone else, our descendants will have to finish or we'll see what we wanted to get to. But it is an exciting time because we're not just talking about facilitating a cultural shift in how we view this plant. We're also talking about facilitating a massive transfer of wealth. And logistically, it almost can't be quantified. So it's exciting. You can't help but get excited about that. You know, if this was a television show, I'm in season 12, episode 6. You know what I'm saying? A lot of folks today are in season 1, episode 4. You know, spoiler alert, it's not a gateway drug. That's the season 1 finale. You know, but so it should, for folks today, you know, it should feel like you walked into the middle of a good ass movie, you know, but you know, you're afraid to ask questions, or you are asking questions like, what happened? And you got all these people like, shh, we're watching a movie.
I don't know if I'm trying, but you're giving us these clips, man. That season 12, episode 6, that was it.
For me, so the benefits for me is that I learned that, you know, having been exposed to post-traumatic stress, you know, having done multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan as both a soldier and a contractor, and what cannabis has allowed me to do is to go from suffering from post-traumatic stress to living with post-traumatic stress. And it's as simple of a saying as it may be, you know, the journey to get there wasn't as simple. It doesn't do the journey any justice. And so learning that, I had to, you know, with consuming cannabis has also taught me how to expand my horizons as well, to include, you know, different delivery platforms and how I consume, and then also open it up to, you know, psilocybin and so forth. So yeah, it's a lot. Well, we invented, and this is fact, black people invented the lottery. But where's our social equity in that? See, it was a numbers game in Harlem. Then, you know, the establishment, the government snatched the numbers game and turned it into the lottery. But there's no benefit to black people who invented the game and did all that, right? And then this one was built on our backs in our lifetime, you know, and so the problem we have today is that as black people as a whole, we are not time appropriate in our fundamental understanding of this plant nor this industry. And when you think about where, you know, we make up less than 4% of ownership, 4% of ownership representation in the cannabis industry. And so we have to think about, as these laws are being changed, and of course, we want black and brown people, anybody who's been incarcerated for this, to be let out of jail. That's justice. But then when we talk about restitution, that's a whole nother kind of conversation. Hence, when you're talking about social equity, inclusion, access to, the industry, access to the information, access to the plant, access to the medicine, all of these things encompass why it's important for black people to understand this plant and this industry. There are things, and to me, I always say stewardship of the industry would, in my opinion, would constitute restitution. You used this to do something to me. Now I need to be made whole. The problem is that because we are not time appropriate in our fundamental understanding of this plant or this industry, we wouldn't be good stewards of this industry, especially in the beginning when we're trying to build this foundational. Not that we couldn't be good stewards, we wouldn't be, not now, because our education level on this is not where it should be. Exactly. Well, the one thing that I did not want to do, and I credit Brett Favre for this, but I was afraid of pills. Remembering what he went through with painkillers and all that stuff, I was always afraid of the pills. And, at this point, I have multiple friends who attempted suicide and were successful with it. And so I got into this like a lot of people like me who got into this because either something happened to them or somebody they love. And when it's that's a different kind of motivation. It can't be bought. It can't be reasoned with, and I always liken myself to if you and I were related, right? And something happened to you and you were in the hospital and you couldn't speak for yourself. I'm that relative who won't fight on your behalf. That's me. I go hard. I only know how to go one way, and that's hard. And so, I'm the one that's going to be learning the treatment plan. I'm the one that's going to learn how to bathe you. I'm the one that's going to learn how to clean you up, everything like that. That's the way I go. And I had an incident where I had a friend who was going through a crisis moment, and he was attempting to take his life with me on the phone. But through the grace of God, we were able to get help to him, and he's in a much better place now, but at that point he would have been like the fifth person that I knew who, committed suicide, and I was at my wit's end. So that was my main motivation. Yeah, I did have, vocational rehabilitation, which, afforded me the ability to access my post 9/11 GI Bill benefits. I do have my VA disability benefits, all of these things, were afforded to me because of my military service. And so, and also get my health care and all that stuff as well. Well, I am the National Director of Veterans Outreach with Minorities for medical marijuana, amongst other things. And the thing I'm most proud about that position, particularly as the National Director of Veterans Outreach, what I wanted to do was, I noticed that after a while, when you say veterans, people think PTSD, homelessness, and suicide. Because we are at 22 veteran suicides a day. We now have more Vietnam veterans who killed themselves than who died in the war. And that's over 58,000. And we passed that number years ago. And just being honest with you, 22 a day was the number they settled on. It's a lot. It's 5 a week in New Jersey. And so having these numbers, these things, and this is a fact and it's still this way, what I wanted to do in this position that I'm in with M for MM was I wanted to change the narrative on when you talk about veterans. And I wanted to, I noticed that as states were falling for adult use cannabis and changing their laws, we were being written into the laws. Minorities, women, veterans, and so forth. And so your veteran community is the only community that is literally represented by every single demographic in these United States. And so being that, you have the greatest military in the history of the planet, and that's a fact as well, it's because all of us at some point or another lived in an environment that fostered success. It was geared towards success. Now, the secret to that success is we only know how to do things one way, together. We've always done it together. Hence why you have the greatest military in the history of the planet. And so you, tax-paying citizen, spent about $4 million on me. That's how much it cost you to send me to basic training, to send me to advanced individual training, to send me to my first unit at Fort Bragg, to send me to war, to train me on the equipment that I was using as a telecommunications specialist, to train me to, now you're spending money to get me out of the Army. Then you're spending money while I'm a contractor, and I was making big money there, And so what I believe that I have given you up to this point, or hope to give you, is as a taxpaying citizen, I feel like I've given you a better return on investment than a suicide, and you're at 22 a day of those. So if we want to talk numbers and everything like that, let's look at it that way. When you see a veteran sleeping on a bench, how much of your money is that sleeping on the bench? Are you getting the full value out of that? Because that guy could have been in charge of multi-million-dollar piece of equipment, and you'd never know it. There's not one job that is in the United States military that can't be done out here in the civilian world. Army Corps of Engineers, we have doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, we have chefs, we have bands, we have, UAV drivers, we have tank drivers, we have crane operators, we have bridge makers, every single job, you have in the military. And here's the thing, it's not about whether you're black or white, it's not, rank, that's what makes it, why we have what we have, but we're not looking at it that way. By the next presidential election. Well, this is 2022, okay? And we are, going on 6 months from election, we're 6 months and 2 weeks from election day. And this is a midterm year, okay? So I would imagine that someone's probably going to, like you see what's happening in Congress with the MORE Act going through and whatnot. So the federal legalization of cannabis will make some great campaign fodder, if you think about it, if you think about, 2 years from now, we're going to be picking a president again, and if you look at Joe Biden's track record on cannabis, not time appropriate. If you look at, whenever you hear him talk about cannabis, first thing that fly out of his mouth is rehab. And then he'll say something like, it should be a Schedule 2, not realizing, with Schedule 2, you kill the whole industry as we know it. Because and I said that when he was running for president, I was like, I got a feeling he's going to do a deal with the pharmaceutical industry. You know what I'm saying? Because think about it, old people like to do what? Take that medicine. So, and he's the first president from the silent generation. Okay. Yeah, something ain't right here. I'm a Biden guy. I was a Bernie guy. Hey, listen, Killer Mike co-signed Bernie. When he did that, I looked him up. And, you know, I was like, oh, okay. See, if Killer Mike hadn't have said anything about Bernie, I wouldn't have looked him up. And then when I looked him up and started doing research and listening, it's like, okay, that's my dude. Yeah, okay, that's right. The old dude who's always talking. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. So when people such as myself, when I'm around my colleagues, we speak an entirely different language. It's English, but it's just a different language. And so the first thing I would tell people to do is to go get and I'm not trying to intentionally promote anything, but go get a book called How to Succeed in the Cannabis Industry, written by a woman named Dashida Dawson. And the reason why I'm specifically saying that book and why you should get it is because there are things you do in that book, like writing in it and whatnot. But what it also does is it teaches you the language that you would need to properly verbalize to somebody such as myself exactly how you want to move in the space. You know, you can't, it's not enough to walk up to me and say, hey, I want to get in the cannabis industry. What do I need to do? You might want to figure out how you want to do it. You know, exactly what you want to do, retail, something like that. And then I would also suggest that people not even take for the masses of black people, especially, you know, don't even look at the plant touching part of this industry. Let's focus on the ancillary side of this industry because, in all honesty, that's where the real money is at. You know, most people don't know that ancillary side of this industry makes about 1.5 to 2 times more than plant touching. And the ancillary side are things you don't need a license for. You know, so ancillary are, you know, HVAC, plumbers, electricians, you know, lawyers, accountants, you know, packaging, you know, dirt makers. You know, I know people who have things where they make dirt that have worm castings, and they got all these different worms from all over the world. You know, it's just that intricate. And I would also say, you know, for black and brown people to get in this industry, you know, cannabis is going to be great. Don't get me wrong. Love it. It's going to be big money. But really, the long money is in hemp and industrial hemp. And that's the $1 trillion industry. And it is also the industry and how we rebuild the hood. Cheaper and stronger, you know. So I would tell people to take a strong look at the hemp industry as well. Because there's so many different uses for hemp, you know. Yeah, and I'm not talking about CBD, CBG, CBN, and all that stuff. No, I'm talking about like building houses and structures, and you know, building clothes. You know what the problem with clothes made out of hemp is? They last too long. I don't like a good problem with me to have. I'm just saying, you know, it's stronger than steel, you know, and truth be told, you know, keeping it all the way a buck. If you really want to save Flint, Michigan, plant a whole lot of hemp. Suck that stuff right up out the ground. Ooh, tonight I got my hands on. Okay, so it's a combination of things. So it's sour. I got sour diesel, and I sprinkled some hash I got from DC Scrogger, who's a protege of Frenchy Cannoli. So, yeah. But see, I understand why a lot of people don't like edibles, and it's because you have to learn your body all over again. You have to learn, you know, like most of us who consume by smoking, we know how many hits off of a joint it would take before you actually feel it. All right. Folks don't know how their own individual bodies, how fast they process things, number one. Number two, they don't realize that edibles are the strongest way to get high, okay? And it lasts the longest because it goes through the small intestine and stuff like that. And then folks need to understand the fastest way to consume cannabis to get high is actually vaping, you know, but folks don't know about under the tongue, lingual, you know, so there's all these different ways in which people, and I'm learning myself, I'm also learning about rosins and hashish and, you know, the different oils and stuff like that, you know, even consuming what is it, maternal through the skin. You know, those are also, you know, there's patches and stuff out there like that. So yeah. Especially when you're getting on a long flight, like going from here to LA. That's a 6-hour flight. Take that edible, float all the way through. All right. No problem, brother. This is a good interview, man. No doubt.